Hi, my name's Russell Stannard. I'm the founder of a website called teachertrainingvideos.com, which really helps teachers to incorporate technology into their teaching and learning. Now, National Geographic have asked me to do a training course with you showing you how to teach online, but particularly looking at ideas that we can use for the live sessions when we use tools like Zoom or Adobe Connect or BlueJeans, WebEx, Microsoft Teams. There are many of these tools that we can use to deliver a live session. Now, the problem with the live sessions is that often they're very teacher-centered. So what we're going to try and focus on is ways of making our lessons a little bit more student-focused. And we're going to look first of all at ways that we can do that in class-based activities. Remember that the key to working with Zoom is the screen share option. So when you move your cursor down, you'll see that you've got the screen share button here. Click on that, and that's the way that a teacher can share anything that they have available and open on their computer. Now, one thing is, what we're going to do is we're going to share the Pathways classroom presentation tool, but remember to click here because there's lots of audio and video on the Pathways presentation tool. So let's look at the classroom presentation tool. We're going to click on it. We're going to click on share. And we're coming in here at the beginning of the course. In fact, the best thing is if we just click down here, it's the easiest way to see the navigation. Lovely visual display of all of the units. And we can just simply click on a unit that we want to access. So let's start by clicking here on A Thirsty World. And it's going to now open up that particular unit of the book. And you can see that we've got access to all of the different pages. Remember, from the moment you click on the screen share button, your students can see everything that you can see. So if we click on one of the pages, let's say that we're going to come to page 66. What we do on the screen now is immediately available to the students as well. Now, one of the nice things is that we have a number of tools here at the bottom that we can use, and these can be very useful when we're working in Zoom. Let me just give you an example. Let's say I want to focus on this particular activity and bring it closer to the attention of the students. Well, all I need to do is click on Zoom to Region, mark the region that I want to bring into attention, and suddenly that comes up much bigger on the screen. And of course, that will be exactly the same for the students. Using the Zoom tool can be great if you're doing activities perhaps where you want the students to very quickly brainstorm words, and this would be a perfect example. If we were to focus in on this picture and perhaps give the students just 30 seconds to think of as many different fruits and vegetables as they can possibly see, or we could even ask them to identify the colours as well if we wanted to make the activity slightly more difficult. And so the Zoom tool is very powerful for this because it can bring the pictures to life and obviously makes the picture much clearer on the screen for the students to see. On page 62 we've got this great infographic, and it shows us the number of gallons of water that are consumed in the production of a whole range of different products. And what we can do is we could set this as a kind of reading, skimming activity and try to get to the students to memorize as many of the different products and the number of gallons of water that are needed. And we could even turn this into a little game by clicking here and making use of the timer. Now let's say we, for example, click on 1 minute. So we might say, for example, click on 1 minute and say start, and then we're only going to give the students just 1 minute to memorize as many of the products and the number of gallons as possible, and then after we can see how many of them they remember. So the timer and the stopwatch can be useful tools, particularly if we want to make a kind of gamify an activity and add a competitive element to it, and set a time limit on how long the students perhaps take to do a quiz or to do a reading activity. The classroom presentation tool can really help you to bring screen share into life. There are a number of tools that can help you to do this. You can navigate easily between the pages to quickly get to the content that you want to look at with just a few clicks of a button. If you want to see the page as a double spread, you can click here, or you can see it as a single spread. Now, a really nice use of working with these pages is a way of hiding text or hiding pictures and then getting the students to guess perhaps what the text is about. So we've got an example here where we might click on the what we call the window shade, and we can then hide the text from the students by just clicking here. So now we could set up an activity where we get the students to look at the picture and say to them, well, what do you think the text might be about that describes the picture? We might allow the students a couple of minutes to think about that or to take some notes, and then we can ask the students for their answers. And at an instant, we can just click on the button there and bring the content back out and show the text to the students. So far, what we've focused on is the tools that are available in the classroom presentation tool. But there are also lots of activities and content that we can interact with and get the students to interact with. And this is the way that we can begin to make the lessons more student-centered. And what I'm going to do now is focus on a few ideas that will help us to shift the activities towards the students and get the students more engaged when we're doing classroom activities and using the screen share. Now, one of the challenging things about working with Zoom is that the lessons can be very teacher-centered, but it's actually quite easy to shift more of the responsibility for the learning over to the students. A simple activity would be to pass control to one of the students so that they can access and control the screen. One student could call out a number, and then another student perhaps could click on the pen tool, choose a color, and then mark the number that the other student says. So student A says 138, and then student B circles 138. Student A says 33, and student B circles 33. And we can do this immediately when we do activities like that. We're shifting the learning over towards the students, even though it's still very much a classroom activity. So what we're trying to do when we do a Zoom lesson is to get the students more and more involved in the activities. And we can use the classroom presentation tool to help us do this. For example, here we've got a listening. We can just click here and listen.
Unit 4, Lesson A, page 64. Exercise A.
Quiz. How much do you know about water?
1. The Amazon River supplies about 20% of the fresh water that enters the world's oceans.
Now we could play that through. And now what we can do is pass control to the students. If we just zoom in a little bit more by clicking here, we can now get the students to click on the tools below here, maybe making use of the pen, and they can now simply decide themselves what the answer to the question is and then mark the correct answer. Now you could ask students to do this in turns if you wanted to, and that would be one way immediately to shift control over to students. Remember, the students have access to the control of the screen. The classroom presentation tool offers lots of opportunities for the students to interact with the content on the screen. A very simple example would be here. When we've got activities to do, it can be the students that can click on the screen and then add in their answers. And afterwards, of course, we can check to see whether the students got the answer right or wrong by just clicking here. The classroom presentation tool has some great resources. If we click over here on the left and come down to the resources, you'll notice that we've got audio content and video content related to the book. Let's click on this one here, Be Therapy. If you notice below, you've also got the script.
Today, in parts of Asia, people from all walks of life are choosing to be stung by bees, often dozens of times in one.
Notice that the text highlights as the video plays.
I would have symptoms of tingling and numbness in my hands. It was excruciating pain.
Then, Shou Rong heard about bee sting therapy.
One possible activity that you could do with the students is to get them to write the script. You could turn the audio off, play the video, and the students read out the script. Now what you could possibly do is divide the video up so that different students write different parts of the script for the video. Then you can play the video back and the students read out their script.